Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the human colony ship UES Horizon, watching the stars through the large viewing window. They were traveling through space near the edge of human territory, far from Earth. Jake had been a ship captain for 15 years, but he had never seen anything like what appeared on his screens that morning. A massive ship emerged from the darkness of space. It was unlike any human vessel Jake had ever seen. The alien ship was made of what looked like crystal and metal mixed together. It was 10 times larger than the Horizon and glowed with a soft blue light. Jake's hands shook slightly as he reached for the communication controls. "This is Captain Morrison of the human vessel Horizon. Please identify yourself," Jake said into the radio. The response came immediately. The voice was cold and spoke perfect English, though it sounded strange and mechanical. "Human vessel, you will listen carefully. I am Ambassador Zixathera of the Galactic Council. Your species has been discovered and catalogued. You will receive our demands and comply within 30 of your Earth days." Jake looked at his crew. Lieutenant Rick Hayes, his second-in-command, stared at the alien ship with wide eyes. Engineer Maria Santos had stopped working and was listening to every word. Communications Officer Tony Clark was recording everything. "What demands?" Jake asked, though he had a bad feeling about the answer. The alien's voice remained cold. "The Galactic Council has ruled this section of space for thousands of years. 12 great civilizations work together under our guidance. Your species will now join this system. You will pay tribute to maintain peace and order." Jake felt his stomach drop. "What kind of tribute?" "You will provide 50% of all food your species produces. You will give 30% of all manufactured goods. You will share all technology with the Council. Most importantly, you will provide 10,000 humans each year to serve as cultural ambassadors on Council worlds." The bridge fell completely silent. Jake knew what cultural ambassadors really meant. Slaves. The aliens wanted human slaves. "And if we refuse?" Jake asked, his voice steady despite his fear. "Then your species will face corrective measures. We have dealt with many young civilizations who did not understand their place. They learned quickly or they disappeared." The alien ship vanished as suddenly as it had appeared, leaving the Horizon alone in space. Jake immediately ordered his crew to set course for Earth at maximum speed. This news had to reach the government as quickly as possible. 3 days later, Jake stood in a large meeting room in the Capitol building on Earth. President Lisa Carter sat at the head of a long table, surrounded by the most important people in human government and military. General Pete Collins, head of the Human Defense Coalition, looked angry. Chief Scientist Dr. Amy Foster was studying data on her tablet. Diplomat Helen Ross appeared worried but calm. "Captain Morrison," President Carter said, "tell us exactly what happened." Jake repeated the alien's demands word for word. When he finished, the room exploded into arguments. General Collins slammed his hand on the table. "We cannot give them anything," Collins said loudly. "If we start paying tribute, we become their property forever. We need to prepare for war." "Doctor," Foster shook her head. "General, their ship was far beyond anything we can build. Our weapons might not even damage it. We need to study their technology first." Diplomat Ross raised her hand for silence. "Perhaps we can negotiate." "Maybe they will accept smaller tribute payments." "You want to bargain with slave traders?" Collins asked angrily. President Carter looked tired. She had been awake for 3 days since Jake's message arrived. "Dr. Foster, what do our scientists think about their capabilities?" Amy Foster looked at her notes. "Their ships appear to use technology we do not understand. They can travel faster than light without using the hyperspace routes we know about. Their energy readings suggest power, sources far beyond our current abilities. If they wanted to destroy Earth, they probably could." The room fell quiet again. Jake could see the fear in everyone's faces. Humanity had spread to dozens of worlds and built a strong civilization, but they were still young compared to aliens, who had ruled space for thousands of years. "How long do we have?" President Carter asked. 27 days, Jake replied. Over the next week, something unexpected began to happen across human space. Instead of panic, people began to get angry. News of the alien demand spread quickly. On Mars, The terraforming crews stopped their work and began building defensive positions. In the asteroid belt, miners started converting their ships into weapons platforms. On the moon, the research stations began working on new technologies for defense. Jake found himself assigned to coordinate with colony ships throughout human space. Everywhere he went, he found the same thing. Humans were not preparing to surrender. They were preparing to fight. Captain Rick Hayes met Jake at the space station orbiting Jupiter. Rick had been promoted and given command of 3 converted cargo ships. "Jake, you need to see this," Rick said, leading him to the observation deck. Outside the station, dozens of ships were gathering. Mining vessels, transport ships, colony ships, research vessels. None of them were military ships, but their crews were modifying them with whatever weapons they could find. Welders were attaching metal plates as armor. Engineers were mounting mining lasers as weapons. "They are all volunteers," Rick explained. "When word spread about the aliens, people started coming here. They want to fight." Jake was amazed. "Do they understand what they are facing?" "They understand that someone wants to make slaves of their children," Rick replied. "That is enough." On Earth, Dr. Amy Foster was working day and night in her laboratory. She had been studying the recordings of the alien ship, trying to understand their technology. What she discovered shocked her. "President Carter," Amy said, "during an emergency meeting, I think I know something important about these aliens." "What did you find?" "Their technology is not original. I found evidence that different parts of their ship come from different civilizations. Their engines use one type of technology. Their weapons use another. Their shields use a third type. I think they have been stealing technology from other species for a long time." General Collins leaned forward. "What does that mean?" "It means they might not be as advanced as they appear. They are collectors, not inventors. They take the best ideas from civilizations they conquer and combine them." This news spread quickly through human space. If the aliens were not the super-advanced civilization they pretended to be, maybe humanity had a chance. With 10 days left before the deadline, Jake received new orders. He was to take command of a mixed fleet of converted civilian ships and meet the aliens when they returned. His mission was not to surrender, but to deliver humanity's answer to their demands. As Jake prepared his ship for what might be humanity's last stand, he thought about what made humans different from other species. Humans had always been explorers and fighters. They had never accepted that anything was impossible. Maybe that would be enough. The countdown continued. In 10 days, the aliens would return expecting tribute and submission. Instead, they would find something they had never encountered in thousands of years of conquest. A species that refused to kneel. Ambassador Zixathera sat in her command chair aboard the Council flagship Eternal Dominion. The massive crystalline ship was surrounded by 11 other vessels, each representing a different member species of the Galactic Council. She expected this to be a simple collection mission. In 30 days, the humans would have prepared their tribute and accepted their place in the Council system. "Ambassador," her tactical officer reported, "we are approaching the human solar system." "Excellent. Begin scanning for tribute ships and prepare docking procedures," Zixathera ordered. She had done this hundreds of times with dozens of species. The pattern was always the same. Initial resistance, then fear, then submission. What appeared on her screens was not what she expected. Instead of a few ships carrying tribute, hundreds of human vessels emerged from behind planets, moons, and asteroids throughout the solar system. They were not sleek warships but converted civilian craft. Mining ships, cargo haulers, passenger transports, research vessels. All of them had been modified with makeshift armor and weapons. "This is unusual," Zixathera muttered. "Perhaps they are presenting their entire fleet for inspection." Her communications officer looked confused. "Ambassador, they are all broadcasting the same message on multiple frequencies. Put it through." A human voice filled the bridge. It was calm and clear. "This is Captain Rick Hayes of the human vessel Liberty Bell. We represent the free worlds of humanity. We reject your demands for tribute. Earth stands free." Zixathera felt a flicker of annoyance. Open a channel to this Captain Hayes. The human appeared on her main screen. He was a middle-aged man with gray hair and steady eyes. Behind him, Zixathera could see a bridge that looked like it had been built from spare parts. Nothing like the advanced technology of council ships. "Captain Hayes," Zixathera said, using her most intimidating voice. "You have misunderstood the situation. The tribute demand was not a request. It was an order. You will comply or face the consequences." "Captain." Hayes smiled. "Ambassador, I think you are the one who misunderstands. Humans do not make good slaves. We have something for you instead." What could a primitive species possibly offer the Galactic Council? "The truth," Hayes replied. Suddenly, every human ship in the system began broadcasting. But they were not broadcasting to the Council fleet. They were broadcasting across the galaxy on frequencies the Council had never monitored. Zixathera's technical officers scrambled to understand what was happening. "What are they transmitting?" she demanded. Her science officer looked pale. "Ambassador, they are broadcasting detailed records of our ultimatum, recordings of our threats, and something else." "What else?" "Historical data about Council integration procedures. They have somehow obtained records of how we integrated other species over the past 1,000 years. Zixathera felt the first stirring of real concern. Those records were classified at the highest levels. How had humans obtained them? On Earth, Dr. Amy Foster worked frantically in her laboratory. She had spent the past month analyzing every piece of Council technology she could find traces of. What she discovered had changed everything. "President Carter," Amy said over the communication link, "the broadcast is working. We are getting responses from across the galaxy." "What kind of responses?" "Secret transmissions from species under Council control. The crystalline beings called Velthari sent us artistic records showing their true culture before the Council suppressed it. The insect species Kethmore are coordinating their hive minds in ways the Council thought impossible. They are all waking up." In space, Captain Jake Morrison commanded a fleet of 30 converted human ships. His flagship was a modified asteroid mining vessel called Freedom's Voice. As he watched the Council fleet, he received a transmission from Dr. Foster. "Jake, we have made a breakthrough. The Council ships are not crewed entirely by Council species. Many of the crew members are from conquered worlds, but their memories have been altered. They think they are loyal Council citizens, but they are actually slaves who do not know they are slaves." Jake felt sick. The Council system was even worse than they had imagined. "How do we help them? We broadcast directly to individual ships. If we can break through their mental conditioning, they might remember who they really are." Jake ordered his communications officer, Tony Clark, to target the nearest Council vessel. "Tony, can you get a direct signal to that ship?" "Yes, sir. What do you want to broadcast?" "Everything. Our history, our music, our art, our stories about freedom. Maybe something will get through." As human broadcasts reached the Council ship, something unexpected happened. On the bridge of the Council vessel Harmony of Order, a technician named Vex Allen suddenly stopped working. His hands were shaking as he listened to human music. Deep in his mind, buried memories began to surface. He remembered green fields and singing. He remembered a name that was not Vex Allen. Across the galaxy, similar awakening were happening. The human broadcasts were not just revealing the truth about the Council. They were awakening memories in species that had forgotten who they used to be. Ambassador Zixathera realized the situation was spiraling beyond her control. "All ships, prepare to destroy the human broadcast stations. We cannot allow this information to spread further." But as her ships moved to attack, they received an unexpected transmission. It came from a Velthari crystal ship that had been in Council service for centuries. "Council fleet, this is Captain Sil Andra of the Velthari Resistance. We remember who we are now. We will not fire on beings fighting for freedom." More ships began broadcasting similar messages. Kethmore vessels reported that their hive minds had reconnected across multiple worlds. Even some Council command ships reported that crew members were refusing orders. Captain Rick Hayes watched from the Liberty Bell as the Council formation began to fall apart. Jake, are you seeing this? I see it, but I do not believe it, Jake replied. Their own ships are turning against them. Engineer Maria Santos had been working with alien technicians who had secretly contacted Earth. Captain Morrison, we have been receiving technical data from awakened species across the galaxy. They are sharing everything they know about Council technology and tactics. The information was incredible. The Zephani, whose mathematical abilities the Council had exploited, were calculating hyperspace routes that could allow coordinated resistance across dozens of star systems. The Occitans, whose biological knowledge had been stolen, were explaining how Council genetic control methods worked and how to reverse them. Dr. Amy Foster could barely keep up with all the data flowing in. This is amazing. Every species has been developing secret resistance techniques for centuries. They were just waiting for someone to give them hope. But Zixthara was not finished. As her fleet continued to break apart, she made a desperate decision. If the Council could not control the humans, they would make an example of them that would terrify any other species considering resistance. All loyal ships, prepare for orbital bombardment of the human homeworld. We will show the galaxy what happens to those who defy the Council. The remaining Council ships, still under Zixthara's control, began charging their weapons. Earth's defenses looked pitiful compared to the firepower aimed at the planet. Captain Jake Morrison knew this was the moment everything would be decided. All human ships, protect Earth. Whatever happens, we do not surrender. But as the Council ships prepared to fire, something impossible appeared on their scanners. Ships were emerging from hyperspace around Earth. Dozens of them, then hundreds. They were not human ships. They were vessels from every species that had received the human broadcasts. The Velthari had sent crystal ships that sparkled like diamonds. The Kethmor had dispatched organic vessels that pulsed with life. Even species Jake had never heard of were arriving to stand with humanity. The human broadcasts had done more than reveal the truth about the Council. They had sparked the first galactic rebellion in 1,000 years. Zixthara stared at her tactical display, in shock. Surrounding Earth was the largest fleet of mixed-species ships ever assembled. All of them were broadcasting the same message in hundreds of languages. Freedom is possible. For the first time in centuries, the Galactic Council faced real opposition. And it had all started with one species that was too stubborn to accept slavery. The space around Earth had become a battlefield unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Hundreds of ships from dozens of different species surrounded the planet, all facing the remaining Council fleet. But this was not a normal battle. Instead of immediately firing weapons, the opposing fleets were talking to each other. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his converted mining ship, watching the massive display screen that showed the entire fleet formation. Ships he had never seen before floated next to human vessels. Crystal ships from the Velthari glowed with soft light. Organic vessels from the Kethmor pulsed like living hearts. Metal ships from species he could not even name sparkled with strange energy. "Jake," came a voice over the communication system. It was Captain Rick Hayes from the Liberty Bell. "We are receiving thousands of messages from the Allied ships. They all want to coordinate with us." Jake felt overwhelmed. "How do we coordinate with species we have never met before?" Dr. Amy Foster's voice came through from Earth. "Captain Morrison, we have been receiving technical data from our new allies. Each species has been secretly developing resistance methods for centuries. The Velthari have created art that can break through Council mental control. The Kethmor have biological techniques that can restore suppressed memories. The Zephani have mathematical formulas that can disable Council technology." On the Council flagship, Ambassador Zixthara stared at her tactical display with growing horror. Her fleet of 12 ships was now facing over 300 vessels. Worse, her own ships were reporting problems. Crew members were refusing orders. Some were even asking to speak with the humans. "Status report," she demanded from her tactical officer. "Ambassador, we have lost communication with 4 ships. Their crews appear to be in rebellion. The remaining ships report that many crew members are experiencing memory disturbances." Zixthara felt cold fear for the first time in her long career. "What kind of memory disturbances?" They are remembering things from before their service with the Council. Names, places, faces. Some are claiming they are not Council citizens at all. Admiral Kevin Stone commanded Earth's orbital defense stations. He had been watching the Council ships carefully, waiting for them to attack. But something strange was happening. Instead of maintaining their attack formation, the Council ships were breaking apart. "Sir," reported Lieutenant Beth Taylor from the Defense Station Guardian, "the Council ship Harmony of Order is requesting permission to communicate with us." "Put them through," Kevin ordered. A face appeared on the screen that looked almost human, but with silver skin and large dark eyes. "Please do not shoot," the being said in broken English. My name is Kale. I remember now. I am not Council. I am Silvani. My people were conquered 300 years ago." Kevin felt his heart racing. "Kale, do you need help?" "Yes. My ship has many like me. We remember now because of your broadcasts. We want to go home, but we do not know how. The Council made us forget everything." Similar messages were coming from other Council ships. Dr. Amy Foster worked frantically with her team to coordinate with the newly awakened beings. "We need to help them," she told President Carter. "Some of these beings have been slaves for hundreds of years without knowing it." Commander Maria Santos had been working with Velthari technicians who had secretly contacted Earth. "Dr. Foster, the Velthari say they can help restore memories using their crystal technology. They have been secretly helping other species remember their true selves for decades, but not all Council ships were experiencing rebellion. Ambassador Zixathera still controlled her flagship and 3 other vessels. She was determined to complete her mission, even if it meant destroying everything. All loyal ships, target the human homeworld. We will show the galaxy what happens to those who defy the Council," she commanded. Captain Jake Morrison saw the Council ships charging their weapons. "All ships, protect Earth. This is what we came here to do." But as the Council ships prepared to fire, something extraordinary happened. The awakened crew members on the Council ships began to sabotage their own vessels. Kale and others like him disabled weapon systems and shields from the inside. "Ambassador," reported her tactical officer, "we have lost weapons control. The crew, they are not following orders." Zixthera felt her carefully controlled world falling apart. "Security teams, arrest all rebellious crew members." "Ambassador, the security teams are also rebelling. They remember who they were before the Council." The situation was spiraling beyond anything Zixthara had experienced. But she had one final option. Her flagship had a special weapon that could destroy entire planets. She would use it to eliminate Earth and send a message to every species in the galaxy. "Prepare the planet killer weapon," she ordered her remaining loyal officers. Captain Rick Hayes detected the energy buildup on the Council flagship. "Jake, they are charging some kind of massive weapon. Energy readings are off the charts." Jake felt sick. After everything they had accomplished, the Council still had the power to destroy Earth. "Can we stop it?" "Not with our weapons," Rick replied, but help came from an unexpected source. Commander Tony Clark, who had been coordinating communications with the Allied fleet, received a priority message from a Zephani mathematician named Kexara. "Human friends," Kexara's translated message said, "we have calculated the frequency needed to disrupt the Council planet killer. All ships must broadcast this frequency at the same time." Tony looked at the complex mathematical formula the Zephani had sent. "Dr. Foster, can we broadcast this frequency from all our ships?" "Yes, but we need perfect coordination. Every ship in the Allied fleet must broadcast at exactly the same moment." Jake realized what they were asking. How do we coordinate hundreds of ships from dozens of different species? The answer came from the Kethmore hive mind ships. "We can link all ships together temporarily," their message said. "Our hive mind can coordinate the timing." It was the most complex cooperation between species in galactic history. Human ships connected their communication systems to Kethmore organic networks. Velthari crystal ships amplified the signal using their artistic harmony techniques. Zephani mathematical ships calculated the exact timing needed. On the Council flagship, Zixthara was seconds away from firing the planet-killer weapon when every ship in the Allied fleet began broadcasting the same frequency. The weapon's energy buildup suddenly became unstable. "Ambassador, the weapon is overloading," her tactical officer reported in panic. "Impossible. That weapon has never failed. The humans and their allies are broadcasting some kind of interference pattern. It is disrupting our energy systems." But the most shocking moment came when the interference pattern did more than disable the weapon. It began to affect Ambassador Zixthara herself. As the frequency washed over her ship, she felt strange sensations in her mind. Memories she had never known she had began to surface. She remembered a world with purple skies and crystal mountains. She remembered a name that was not Zixthara. She remembered being young and free before the council took her. "My name," she whispered, her voice shaking. "My name is Lyra. I am Velthari." The revelation hit her like a physical blow. She was not a council ambassador. She was a conquered being whose memories had been suppressed for so long she had forgotten her own identity. Everything she had done, every species she had helped enslave, had been done while she was a slave herself. Across the galaxy, similar awakenings were happening. Council leaders and administrators were remembering their true selves. The Great Galactic Council was not a confederation of willing species. It was a system of enslaved beings who had been forced to enslave others. Captain Jake Morrison watched from his ship as the Council fleet completely fell apart. Ships that had been enemies moments before were now requesting help and sanctuary. The galaxy's oldest and most powerful empire was collapsing not from military defeat, but from the simple revelation of truth. "Dr. Foster," Jake said over the communication link, "I think we have just witnessed the end of the Galactic Council." "No, Jake," Amy replied. "I think we have witnessed the beginning of something much better." 3 months had passed since the confrontation at Earth. The galaxy was transforming in ways no one had thought possible. Captain Jake Morrison, now promoted to Admiral of the newly formed Free Worlds Alliance, stood in the observation deck of the space station New Hope, orbiting Earth. Through the large windows, he could see ships from dozens of species working together to build something unprecedented. The former council worlds were no longer under the control of a single empire. Instead, they had formed a voluntary alliance where each species contributed their unique abilities freely. The change was remarkable, but it had not been easy. Admiral Jake watched as a Velthari crystal ship worked alongside a human construction vessel to build a new communication relay. The Velthari, led by the being who now remembered her name, was Lyra, had become some of humanity's closest allies. Their ability to create beautiful crystal technology was now used to build networks that connected free worlds across the galaxy. "Admiral Morrison," came a voice behind him. Jake turned to see Dr. Amy Foster approaching with a data tablet in her hands. She looked tired, but happy. "We have received the latest reports from the Liberation fleets." Jake nodded. The Liberation fleets were mixed groups of ships from different species that traveled to former council worlds to help enslaved populations remember their true identities. It was slow work, but it was working. "How many worlds this month?" Jake asked. 17. More worlds have declared independence from council control. The Kethmore hive minds have been especially helpful in reaching isolated colonies. Their biological networks can connect with other species in ways we never imagined. The Kethmore had surprised everyone. Once their hive minds were reconnected, they became incredibly effective at helping other species overcome mental conditioning. Their ships, which looked like living creatures, could heal both physical and psychological damage caused by centuries of council control. Captain Rick Hayes entered the observation deck carrying a cup of coffee and looking pleased. "Jake, you need to hear this. We just received a message from the Zafani home system." Jake smiled. The Zafani had been among the first species to fully embrace the new alliance. Their mathematical abilities, once stolen by the council, were now used to solve problems for the benefit of all species. What did they discover? They have been analyzing the old council archives with some Ochetan biologists. They found something incredible. The original Galactic Council was actually founded by species that genuinely wanted to work together peacefully. But over time, a small group of leaders became corrupted by power and started conquering other species instead of cooperating with them. Dr. Amy Foster looked up from her tablet. That explains why Council technology was so inconsistent. The early Council probably developed some technologies legitimately through cooperation, but later they just started stealing everything from conquered species. Jake found this information both fascinating and sad. So the Council could have been what we are building now, but they chose conquest instead of cooperation. The door to the observation deck opened, and President Lisa Carter entered with a small group of advisors. She looked older than she had 6 months ago, but there was a brightness in her eyes that had not been there during the crisis. Admiral Morrison, Dr. Foster, Captain Hayes, thank you for meeting with me. We have some important decisions to make about the future. Jake gestured for everyone to sit at the conference table near the windows. What decisions, Madam President? The Free Worlds Alliance now includes over 200 star systems and 37 different species. We need to establish a permanent government structure. The question is, what kind of government should it be? This had been the biggest challenge since the Council's collapse. Each species had different ideas about how the Alliance should be organized. Some wanted a strong central authority like the old Council, but without the conquest and slavery. Others preferred a loose confederation where each world remained mostly independent. Dr. Amy Foster had been studying this problem for weeks. Madam President, I have been working with representatives from different species to analyze their governmental preferences. The solution might be simpler than we thought. What do you mean? President Carter asked. Every species values freedom, but they define freedom differently. The Velthari want freedom to create and express themselves artistically. The Kethmor want freedom to connect their minds across vast distances. The Zephani want freedom to explore mathematical concepts without limits. Humans want freedom to explore and make their own choices. Captain Rick Hayes nodded. So instead of one government that tries to control everything, we create a system that protects each species' particular type of freedom. Exactly, Amy replied. We establish basic principles that everyone agrees on, like no slavery and no conquest. But beyond that, each species governs itself the way it wants to. Jake liked this idea. What about problems that affect multiple species? We handle those through voluntary cooperation, Amy explained. If there is a problem that affects several worlds, the affected species work together to solve it. No one is forced to participate, but everyone benefits when problems are solved. President Carter looked thoughtful. This is very different from any government system in human history. That is because we are dealing with something new in galactic history, Jake replied. We have species with completely different biologies and cultures trying to work together as equals. The old human models of government might not work. The Sioux conversation was interrupted by an urgent communication from Commander Tony Clark on Earth. Admiral Morrison, we are receiving a priority transmission from the former Council capital world. It is from Lyra. Jake activated the communication system. Lyra's face appeared on the screen. She looked different now than she had as Ambassador Zixthera. Her silver skin had a healthy glow, and her large dark eyes showed emotions that had been suppressed for centuries. Jake, my friend, Lyra said, I have important news. We have found the original Council Charter, the document that established the Council thousands of years ago. What does it say? Jake asked. It describes a voluntary alliance of species dedicated to mutual cooperation and the sharing of knowledge for the benefit of all. It explicitly forbids conquest, slavery, and forced tribute. The founders wanted to create exactly what you are building now. Dr. Amy Foster leaned forward excitedly. Lyra, does the Charter provide any guidance on how such an alliance should be governed? Yes. It establishes what they called the principle of sovereign cooperation. Each species maintains complete independence within its own territory, but all species work together on issues that affect everyone. Decisions affecting the entire alliance must be unanimous. Jake felt a chill of recognition. That is almost exactly what Dr. Foster just proposed. Lyra smiled, an expression that would have been impossible when she was under council control. Perhaps great minds think alike across the centuries. Or perhaps there is only one way to organize free beings who want to work together. Over the following weeks, representatives from dozens of species met on Earth to establish the new galactic government. The process was slow because every decision had to be unanimous, but that forced everyone to find solutions that worked for all species. The Velthari contributed their artistic abilities to create beautiful documents and symbols for the new alliance. The Kethmore used their biological networks to ensure perfect communication between species. The Zephani calculated the mathematical models needed to coordinate trade and resource sharing across hundreds of worlds. The Ochetans provided biological expertise to help different species adapt to each other's environments. Humans contributed what they had always contributed best: the stubborn insistence that freedom was possible, and the willingness to share that belief with everyone they met. 6 months after the confrontation at Earth, Admiral Jake Morrison stood, once again in the observation deck of New Hope. But now the view was different. Ships from hundreds of worlds traveled freely through space, carrying goods, knowledge, and people between star systems. Trade routes that had been controlled by the Council were now open to everyone. Scientific discoveries were shared freely, instead of being hoarded by conquerors. Dr. Amy Foster joined him at the window. "Jake, do you ever think about how this all started?" Jake smiled. "You mean how we accidentally started a galactic revolution?" "We did not start it," Amy replied. "The desire for freedom was already there in every species. We just reminded everyone that resistance was possible." Captain Rick Hayes approached with the latest reports. "The liberation fleets have freed 50 more worlds this month. At this rate, every former Council world will be free within 2 years." Jake felt proud of what they had accomplished, but also humble. "We were just lucky that we were too young and too stubborn to know that fighting the Council was supposed to be impossible." Amy laughed. "Maybe that is humanity's greatest contribution to the galaxy. We do not know when something is impossible, so we try anyway." As Jake watched the ships moving freely through space, he realized that the galaxy would never be the same. The age of conquest and tribute was over. The age of cooperation and freedom had begun. And it had all started because one species refused to accept that slavery was inevitable and insisted on sharing that refusal with everyone they met. The Galactic Council had demanded tribute, expecting another easy conquest. Instead, they had encountered something that shocked them to their core: the simple, stubborn belief that all beings deserve to be free. That belief had proven more powerful than all their weapons and technology combined.